Please help me give a warm welcome to Connie Kirk and Susan Reed.
Thank you. I'm Susan Reed, and I'm here to tell you just a little bit about what we do in relationship to connecting social change to innovation strategy. So we, in essence, identify the future, we get companies and organizations, and we connect them. That's a simple way of thinking about it. And we really do. There are three fundamental pieces that are very important to that for us. And number one is insightful analytics. Not tons of data, but insightful information. Number two are advanced creative problem-solving capabilities. Very important. And number three are well-integrated teams. The way that we approach team building is by putting together teams based on the way they think together as a team. This goes back to some of the thinking patterns that were mentioned earlier. So what does that have to do with changing the world, so to speak, or having an impact on that? Well, I know you guys are exceedingly intelligent, so I'm going to put it to you like this. Once upon a time, there were three little pigs. And they were attending, unfortunately, their father's funeral. Very sad. But their father was very rich. And he left them equally, all three pigs, he left them equally with a part of his business. His business was a watch manufacturing business. And he said to them, the last in the will that was written up, it said, I want you to share your goodwill and fortune, and I want you to give something back to the world. I don't really care how you do it. So the three pigs left, and here's what they did. The first pig knew exactly what they wanted to do, what he wanted to do. He went out, sold out, just like that. And he took the money and put it into the organization that he felt he was mostly connected to. It was something about, maybe something about no more hay for houses or something like that. But he worked there for the rest of his life. And that was what pig number one did. Pig number two decided to follow in his father's footsteps. He did the same thing his father had done, but he allocated 10% of everything he did to social change and improvement in the world. And so that's what he did. And pig number three decided he wanted to continue to grow and transform his father's business. So he actually got a watch. He added a sensor to it that would detect wolves. The pigs that needed protection, that could afford it, they all bought it. They threw their watches away and they bought new watches, okay, because it did more things. But it also did something else. For the pigs who could not afford a watch, they got together in villages and they were able to mount this thing and put it in a village and actually satisfy 50 different pigs where they would have access to this watch. So what happened is the business continued to grow, but they also served a population that could buy one watch, and they could serve hundreds of different pigs. So if you look at these pieces, all of these pieces have heart in them. Heart's very important. The first pig was all heart. The second pig said, I'm going to continue business, and I'm going to contribute to heart. The third pig said, I'm going to use heart to grow my business. Number three is the way that we believe, that's the way that we connect, or EdgeDweller connects to the social piece. Okay? So that's an easy way, I think, to talk about, three different models. Yeah, 30 years is a long time. My son told me, he mentioned all the different music I had lived through, which I thought was pretty interesting. But basically, the important thing is that working with startups to Fortune 50 companies, all different industries, I think we cover over 25 industries. I don't think there are that many industries left. And over 100 different products and services. Here's the fundamental pieces that I think are very important. Number one, as I began my career working on brand position and message strategy, that is one way to grow a business. We have then evolved into new product development. We then begin to work at the portfolio level, a mix of products and services for an organization. When does that need to change and shift? If you have a very mature product and service portfolio, which about 75% of companies in the US do have, then you need to think about industry reinvention. And by the way, if you're going to think about industry reinvention, you need advanced creative problem-solving capabilities in order to be able to create disruptive ideas. And if you need a lot of that kind of thing, you need to be able to replicate that at the individual level and at the team level. So all of those pieces put together equals innovation practice, the kind of innovation practice that we've put together. Now that is that's my life. That's what I've spent my life doing. But my passion is in taking these pieces and applying them so that they can create social change in the world. And it's really a lot easier than you may think. There's some brands that you'll see up here that were green brands. We did a ton of work starting back in the 80s, that far back, in the environmental arena. And I worked with Ray Anderson and his team for over a period of 10 years. How many of you know Ray Anderson or know of him? He's a Georgia Tech grad with honors. He actually passed away in 2011, an amazing human being. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the work there. But anyway, it's a lot easier than you think to do, and I want to talk to you about that. If I were summarizing how all these pieces come together, then I would say it's really a simple matter of understanding when you use left brain techniques, which are the analytical piece, when do you use right brain techniques, advanced creativity, and how do you make sure that social exploration occurs? It's sort of that simple. Now, I'm not going to go over this chart with you, but I just want you to notice, I want you to notice the orange on the chart, because the chart shows the different steps of our innovation practice, the questions that it answers, the different things that you go through. The orange highlights the special pieces that are unique to make sure that social exploration occurs. Okay, so we actually have this available if you want to look at it. There's a edgedweller.info/Georgia Tech. If you want to go there and download any of these models to have a closer look, you may be able to use some of them to help determine an organization that you're working with, to help identify an organization you want to work with, etc. So that's why we have those for you if you want to download some of these. So very easy to make these things work and to tailor it to make sure that social exploration occurs. As we all know, business models today are aggregating in really 4 different ways. Here we have low social integration to high, and then we have low innovation to high innovation. And these are 4 different models, and let me just briefly talk about these because there is a difference. On the upper corner, we have the idealistic, the top left. Those are where many, many nonprofits reside. A lot of nonprofits today are not using innovation in the way that they need to, and so they need to move that to advance their cause. In the lower left, you have what we call the industrious company. Now, these are the companies, there are a lot of companies, particularly in the US, in this area because a lot of these companies have mature and declining product portfolios, which means they have a lot of things that are mature. So they are spending a lot of time doing a lot of work to create efficiencies in their organization, to enable capacity in their organization, and to basically manage bottom line. The companies on the right that are skewing more innovative, of course, are the innovators. Those we hear most about, Apple, Google, maybe Samsung. And then there's the right quadrant, which we're referring to as I3. These are the companies that do both. This is the spot that we believe has the highest growth opportunities for many reasons, one of which is that companies really haven't thought about tapping into social change as a growth strategy. And when you look at ideas, it is amazing how sometimes those numbers just really work together. These are companies like, how many are familiar with Rosabeth Moss Cantor's work, Supercorp? Yeah, a few of you. That's a good book. It's a good book. She identifies IBM. She puts IBM in this particular quadrant. Another company we would put there would be the Agricultural Bank of China. They're the financial institution that begin to offer financial loans, micro loans to peasants. Hugely successful. Satisfied a business need, satisfied an unmet social need. They can now invest in crops and feed themselves, as an example. So we're going to talk about 2 companies today. One is Interface, and one is Connie Kirk and her organization Nobis Works that fit in there, who have worked hard and committed to this and made it happen. Okay? Now, just a quick thing about this model. This is one of those highlighted areas that we talked about that where you can actually help direct things in a social change format when you're talking about growth. And these are the stages of social commitment. There are 7 stages that we've identified. This is very interesting to use this to be able to identify where an organization is and where they may travel. Very helpful. So on the left side, it's capital. There is absolutely no involvement at all in social change. At the very next step is credo. I guess I could point, but you guys can see that, right? Credo is where they have it in the mission statement. That's it. It manifests no other place but mission statement. And then it goes on down the line. It goes into cause, ad hoc cause commitment. And then it goes to commitment. It's a condition of success. It gets into the success metrics of an organization. And finally, it moves down to core, which would be pig number 3. It was core strategy for pig number 3. And then it moves into, once you do that a lot, you become a global change agent. Now, we did some work with a class, I believe it was Professor Cowan's class. Oh, I see Dr. Thomas. Hey. And this is what we gave them, and this is how fast this can work. It's very easy to begin to use and to test. We gave the class 15 minutes. We gave them a couple of innovation frameworks, and we said, create some ideas. We said, number 1, healthcare monitoring is a big growth trend of the future. We're all going to have to diagnose ourselves, and it's going to have to replace this expensive equipment, right? So we gave them that, say, play with Timex with this piece, and then make it spring off something that creates social change. 15 minutes. Here's what they came up with. Number 1, the first group came up with, we're going to recycle the watches, and we're going to extract the metal, and we're going to sell the metal, and we're going to take the money from the metal, and we're going to donate it to a cause. Okay? So that would fit under the commitment phase. Here's something that we're going to do no matter what. Okay? Group number 2 said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take all the batteries back. We're going to work with the batteries and create self-propelled power generators for impoverished communities. And we're just going to contribute them back. We aren't going to, it's not going to be a business strategy. We're going to contribute back, but we're going to always do it. We're going to commit to it. And we're going to measure our success as a company by how many of these we get out every year to impoverished communities. And group number 3 did something very similar to pig number 3. And what they did was they identified 3 different health monitoring diseases that this would detect on your arm. It surpassed heart monitoring. It began to detect other things. And the same kind of philosophy in that people would exchange now this watch because it becomes more of a health and wellness watch. And also, they use this to distribute to villages and communities where they can't afford any sort of healthcare monitoring at all, and they can sell one to a village for $59, and it can service literally hundreds and hundreds of people. So again, that is at the growth strategy phase. It's not that hard to do. In 15 minutes, there are 3 different things to choose from. Now, you have to go in and see if they're valid or not, but it's actually very easy to do. So that's an example. Now let's go and have a look at interface. Interface is in the carpet tile business today. Before they were in the quote-unquote interiors business, they did a lot of things. But the commitment that Ray Anderson and team made was pretty extreme and pretty remarkable. And here's what they looked like. The first 21 years of business, they were an ordinary industrious sort of capitalistic company with no commitment to social change. In 1994, Ray Anderson read and then was exposed to Paul Hawken, who wrote the book, The Ecology of Commerce. How many of you know that book and Paul? Yeah, okay. Okay, it changed his life. And I mean changed his life in a big way. He didn't talk about it. He came on, and that year he created a dream team. It was some of the most amazing people on earth that he put on this team. Paul Hawken was one of them. Janine Benyus, do you know her, of biomimicry? She was another. And then it went on and on. Rocky Mountain Institute people. It was an amazing time to work with Interface. And then they were first to market with this sustainability vision. Long story short is that they then began to move into the area of condition. Everything that they did, there were a series of metrics of when they were going to completely run their organization in a full closed loop cycle. And what happened as a result to the growth is that they, in 2002, which was the time when we began to put innovation with the sustainability stuff and align it all so that it worked better, they were able to, in 5 years, increase their revenues by 210%. Their share at the time, at the beginning of this, was declining. We actually turned it around and grew at 55%. Interface very quickly became one of the top 100 places to work. and a global change agent. And I'll just show you one piece as an example. This model can go much, much deeper. And, but here's two different metrics for you to look at for interface. The one on the bottom, it looks at the customer impact. And you go all the way from 0 to partnerships. Well, Interface went beyond that. They literally introduced the concept of sustainability to organizations like Walmart. They were the first course that Walmart ever took in learning how they had done these actual practices. So their impact has been global, not just in their industry, but in other industries. And that's the impact of it. And an investment strategy, they were investing nothing. To now it's in their DNA. Everything they do is investing towards improving sustainability. It is remarkable. I literally remember when shareholders would say, oh my God, we got to stop this. We got to stop this. Because the vision was here and the world was buying here. And so you have to bring it together. That's what you do in innovation and when you put these two pieces together. So I'm going to let you listen to this and then we're going to turn it over to Connie. This is very interesting. This is a little piece of the new CEO is Dan Hendricks. And this is him talking about two pieces. Wait, hold on. You see it?
Every engineering and business school case study starts. It doesn't pencil, he said. But you consider the market. This is expanded to consider on the deal, installed the solar.
So some great lessons there in terms of they have tons of Georgia Tech engineers over there, and they really were, revolutionary in introducing the concepts that you saw in the first part about innovation as liberation, testing. They had a whole research department just designed for testing new ways to tap into the environment. And And then the second piece, in terms of, I'm trying to find my little clipper, fear is fatal, brings us to the kind of courage that it takes to do this kind of work that does both give back, there's a little bit of a risk there, and that does grow above average. And there is no individual that I know and have worked with that has embraced this concept more courageously than the next person who we're about to introduce, which is Connie Kirk, the CEO of Nobis Works. And as Connie's getting her little thing on, I just want to plot Connie up here, and so you can see in this model, then I'm going to turn it over to her. 1977, up at a commitment, first to market in the area of disabilities, which she's going to describe. Needing and seeing a mature portfolio and the need to change rather dramatically in 1909. You're old, Connie. 1909. 2009. In 3 years, making huge commitments, investing in a new strategic business unit, more than doubling their revenue base, increasing their mission at phenomenal levels, and moving from a local organization to regional, and now faced with the wonderful issue of which partners are we going to choose to take this concept nationally. Connie.
Wow. Thank you, Susan. Wow, that's quite
an
introduction. But the truth is that Susan was my was my job coach. Let's see. What do we do? What does Nobis Works do? We are all about providing, assisting people to get to work. Youth and adults with disabilities, all different types of disabilities, as well as people with barriers to employment such as poverty, homelessness, nonviolent felons, undereducated, many people who are in need of the same services that we've been providing for many years. I don't know where I should stand here. Just walk around, okay. I'd like to kind of paint the picture for you what we were like in 2008. You all know what happened in 2008. Y'all were probably in diapers then, but the unemployment rate was about 10 to 12% nationally, and certainly at least that in Georgia. Unemployment among people with disabilities and other barriers to employment was at least double or triple that. And so as everything was crumbling, our government business lines, our commercial business lines, all the kind of work that we do was sliding. Our business was declining in every way. And our future looked like it was dependent on everybody else, on others all the time. And we were laying off employees with disabilities. We were laying off our staff. And we just looked at ourselves and said, we have got to do something to create jobs of our own. There are no jobs out there. And so we are no strangers to social enterprise. So we had some successful ventures in the past, and we said, okay, let's do it. So I'm going to talk you through what many of you live and breathe social enterprise in your courses, but Nobis Works uses the social enterprise definition of using business models and earned income strategies to pursue our mission and to grow our mission. So we took that tried and true success that we had in other social missions, social enterprises, and so we looked at ourselves on paper. We kind of studied ourselves, and this is what we looked like in 2009. We were a $5.5 million business, and you look at the orange pins and you see those are Nobis Works business lines. The green pins are the industry business lines in the same industries. And you can see that most of the time, we have been ahead of and leaders in our industry product lines. But if you look at our picture, you see that to the left is our growth and introduction product lines. And on the right-hand side are the mature and declining markets and the product lines that we had. So as we look at that in 2009, we said, good grief, 92% of our products and our services are either in mature or declining stages. And so this was a pretty eye-opening experience and certainly motivating to us and our executive team and our board of directors. So we really needed to do something drastic. And it turns out that we had this idea of electronics recycling brewing at the time. And so we said, hey, we're a nonprofit. This is a for-profit business. Well, why not? So we have a client that we all, when we get to a point in, when this client always got finished with whatever they were doing, and our client is our trainee, and she would say, "What do you do now, Miss Connie?" Well, that's what our executive team said, and so what we do now, Miss Connie? Well, here's our path that we took. Didn't move. We first put our facts together, and we put our market information together. Well, first, I go and see if I can find a good quality consultant that can help me do this. This is my job coach. And so we put the facts and the market studies together, and we took it to our board, and they got very, very motivated about it, as our executive team already had. But we also have always had a culture of innovation, and partly because we've done some innovative things and they've worked, so you kind of tend to do those successful things again. So what I had to do was communicate that this was a good risk worth taking, and we kind of didn't have another plan, if you will. So I had to engage our staff and our leadership team and get everyone on board. Actually, that wasn't that hard. But because I had the right leadership team, and you have to put your team together, and we had some core people on our leadership team that became our decision team that I'll talk about in a minute. But the next thing we had to do is get the funding, and that takes a bit of planning, a bit of time, but I think we did it kind of in record time. But one of the things that we have been doing for several years is when we have business success or financial success, we squirrel away some money into what we call our new venture fund. And we put that together several years ago and have actually used it on 2 or 3 occasions. So I had to do some convincing to be able to dip into that several $100,000 new venture fund to say this is a venture worth taking. So next, we put together a weekly decision team. Susan was part of that, but it was a cross-functional team that we put together, and we met every week, every Tuesday, like clockwork. And so that's kind of the path. But if you really wanted to look at this the right way, you would have this umbrella over it. And that umbrella would have these kind of words on it like commitment, discipline, stamina, determination not to fail, and many others. So there's not an umbrella, but believe me, that umbrella was there. And this isn't easy. This whole process isn't easy, but it's a very sound process, and it's worth it. So Susan has told you all about that you've got to have all different kinds of people on your team, and you really need certain kinds of thinkers. On the left, you'll find this. She named this. We don't have frameworks. We just do it. But she named it, and it's just so enlightening. The critical thinkers are on the left, the creative thinkers are on the right, and the blended thinkers are in the middle. You've got to have, in order to do innovation and growth, you've got to have those evolvers and disruptors. Now, you need them all. You need everyone. But you've got to have those people. And honestly, we didn't plan those people quite like that, but intuitively we had them. And I think that what we've learned is that I think we've understood this now, looking back, that's part and parcel of the success that we've had. So Susan is all about metrics. I'm all about metrics and numbers. I love them. So we are a good team in that respect. But when you're trying to measure your success, yes, we've made money on this, and that's always the easy success indicator to boards of directors and staff who are looking for, is there going to be money to give me a pay increase or whatever those practical things are. But really, we had so many metrics that we just couldn't even focus on, we just had to focus on a few. We couldn't do it any other way. So we've named this our triple bottom line. We have social metrics of course, jobs and independence and confidence and success for individuals. We also have huge economic indicators where we are reducing public assistance, such as dependence on Social Security, food stamps, unemployment compensation, many, many public assistance programs. And of course, taxes paid into the system. And of course, the environmental impact goes without saying. It has immeasurable metrics but we are convinced that all the electronics recyclers can claim those environmental statistics, and they deserve to. But we have something that no one else can touch, and that's the social and the economic metrics that we can produce. And we are certain that the reason our customers come to us, many of them, is because of our metrics, and because certainly we do it right. We have a great facility, high security. We have great customer service, all of the things that you must have to be a good business. But it's those other things that people are noticing about our social enterprise. These are annual statistics. These are annual metrics that for just the last year. So all of these are annual. And there are really four categories that I want to point out here in this one slide. It's the personal impact of the success of our social enterprise, the community impact of our success, and of course the changes and success in our organization, and of course the environmental impacts. So if you'll take a look at the top, we have our client trainees, and I just love so many of the little tidbits that I get from them. But I particularly love this quote that one of our clients said: "I like to write a check, not get a check." And surely that has happened to 318 people who have emerged from our program as confident, independent, successful contributors to our community. They now have money to spend, and yes, the ability to write a check. The community impact of the success is that there are more taxes going into the system and less public assistance going out. Our organizational impact, it's really changed our organization in just 3 short years. We've had a 28% growth in mission revenue, where we are supporting 28% more mission than we did 3 years ago with just this one social enterprise. We've diversified our revenue base, always good. Love to spread that overhead a little bit farther. We've energized our board and our staff. People are saying, "Whoa, we can do this," and we've built our skills and our confidence, and we're ready to do it again. We still have more work to do on this one. Have to hold them back. But the environmental statistics are just hugely significant. You look at what impact we've had. We recycle 1 million pounds a month, 12 million pounds a year, and it's equivalent to reducing 1.3 million pounds of hazardous waste, taking 2,000 cars plus off the road, and it can run, the energy that we've saved by recycling instead of rebuilding is 677, power to 6,000. Can't even read the numbers. I told you I liked numbers, but can't read them. Homes. And so look at the wages that are paid, the taxes that have been paid into, and the reductions in public assistance. These are huge. 71 full-time permanent jobs and trained 318 people in just this social enterprise. So what's the new picture look like? Remember that old picture where everything was on the right, nothing was on the left? 92% was on the mature and declining. Now we have 40% in the new growth innovative stages. We've doubled our revenue. We've added those 71 jobs and trained those 318 people, grown our mission by 28%. It's incredible. This initiative has not only done this for individuals, but it's revitalized some of our mature and declining products and services that we have here. And we feel like we're more in control of our own destiny. So, what's next? Susan talked about, we are looking at a national network of community rehabilitation programs like ours across the United States. We're going to help put them in this recycling business with the same mission. These people have the same mission. Their communities can have the impact that we have. And the greatest thing is it's going to raise everyone's boat, because we are going to be able to serve bigger customers, the federal government, and not have to transport e-waste for long distances. More savings, more environmental impact. So truly, innovation has been liberating in our organization. And I guess the fear of failure could have been fatal to us because we wouldn't be where we are today. So we look pretty good on paper with what's happened, but I want you to see what we really look like on a daily basis. This is our operation.
These days, yesterday's next big thing, from becoming a big burden on the environment.
Did I talk too long?
That's where ReWorks comes in. We started
A little
ReWorks
bit.
back in 2008.
We process millions of pounds of electronics in a month, creating jobs and barriers to employment. We also
What's our health system?
So great progress from zero to where they are today. All right, let's see. Where's the clicker? Okay, so we're running just a little bit long, but so the bottom line is you can see what they were able to do in just 3 years, now moving into a scenario for national development. This is where you can go and get content info if you want to look at some of the models. And no matter what you do, just make sure it has some heart in it. Okay? And so let's open for questions now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm assuming that ReWorks is a for-profit, is that correct?
No.
Oh, it's a
Not-for-profit.
nonprofit as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you said social business, I was thinking it was a for-profit business, but with a social mission, but,
Nope.
okay. Well, my question was, if you had a for-profit and a nonprofit, how could they coexist? But that's not really an issue then.
We're thinking about that. And there are a lot of good reasons to think about that, but one of them is that I would really like for our employees, our employees with disabilities to be owners, part owners of the company, and you can't do that in nonprofit. There are no owners. Mm-hmm. So I have this vision that they're going to be owners and running their own companies soon.
Connie, have you ever heard of B Corporation at all? Does that sound familiar to you at all?
The what?
B Corporation?
B Corps. Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Right.
We don't have that capability yet in Georgia, but that's working very well in other states.
Okay. I have a question as well, which is you're talking about innovation and how there are different people that are necessary, and particularly in the middle was the evolvers and the disruptors. And I'm just wondering are those characteristics within your staff already, and what do they look like? Or do you have to train them to be that way? How can you identify them in your organization, or how did you identify them in your organization?
Well, intuitively, we have those people on our team, and I guess it's because we just intuitively like those kind of people, but because of the culture we have. But I think Susan really ought to answer that.
When we first were introduced to Nobis Works, we knew that they needed the kind of innovation is called a leading innovation. It's high growth. And in order to manage high growth initiatives, you need these kinds of players, and the team that they had chosen fit this need. So for us, it was sort of a no-brainer to get involved because they had the right leadership team in place. There are other kinds of initiatives that do not require those people who think on both sides of the brain.
Right there.
Test? Okay. So the video you showed was an assembly line of electronics recycling, right?
Did
Yes,
you hear what he
yes,
said?
the video showed electronics recycling, yes.
That
Right.
was only one part of our organization.
Okay. As a nonprofit, I'm just curious: are the workers on that assembly line are they paid average minimum wage, or are they paid?
No,
salary?
they are paid higher than minimum wage. They have full fringe benefits, and they have a career path throughout. Their entry-level jobs, and their jobs in refurb, their jobs in sales, their jobs in they're just jobs throughout. So, yes, it's a career for somebody. Not everybody needs to stay with us. They need to start with us and move on. If they can grow farther and want to, we're with them.
Can you tell us a little bit about the other things that go on at Tommy Nobis? As I was looking at your website, there's quite a lot of things that you do, and I'm interested in reworks. Is there surplus that comes from that business that helps you fund the other businesses, the other business units and services that you provide?
Absolutely. As I said, we sort of have a lot of business lines, and I don't know how many we had up there, but we do training and rehabilitation services, vocational rehabilitation services. We have about 14 federal contracts where we staff with people with disabilities, mail rooms, supply rooms, Social Security administrative positions. We do that for HUD, Corps of Engineers, EPA. We do all the janitorial work at Dobbins Air Reserve Base, and their recycling there, all of their recycling, except electronics. The government doesn't have a protocol yet to do all of the electronics recycling that they would like to make sure that's secure enough. We have community work sites where, and that's really where we prefer to do our training now. We have community work sites where people actually go to their training at Kroger, at Owens & Minor, which is a medical packaging company, Wellstar Warehouse, and in other parts of Wellstar. We have a number, and we do work for First Data Task in many ways. We do fulfillment for them. We do box making. Remember, we serve all different types of people with disabilities. So people with blindness and deafness have two completely different needs. People with intellectual disabilities, people with mental health issues, all of those things. We've got to have a smorgasbord of kinds of services. We also, one of our product lines, as I call it, is our foundation. We do fundraising. We have a vehicle donation program. We take people's vehicles and recycle vehicles and resell them. Let's see, what else is on there? We do. Oh, this is really cool. This is something new. This is a new social enterprise, and you'll hear more about this because it's going to grow. We are working with Asbury Automotive Group, and I don't know how many of you are driving Lexus right now. I'm not, but this is at the Lexus dealerships in Smyrna, Roswell, Alpharetta. We just opened another one in Greenville, North Carolina. And we're running a coffee shop for them with people whose disability is on the autism spectrum. And it's called Cafe Blends. And this is their initiative, and we are under subcontract with them, but we are partnering with them to put these in dealerships. They have 85 dealerships all over the Southeast. So these are individuals on the autism spectrum, and there are all kinds of jobs in a cafe, in the Cafe Blends opportunity. It's just, it's making people bloom.
Other questions?
Thank you for coming, first of all. Now that you have gotten such great growth by starting this new kind of social enterprise, what are you doing to continue that growth now in the future coming years?
Now that we know that we can do it and we have a friend, we have so many ideas on the, in fact, one of my, what is he, an evolver or a disruptor?
Evolver.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mike has an idea du jour. And you have to rein him in because we've got to get it done. You know, you can't have an idea du jour. You've got to be able to do it. So the kind of people we're looking for are those people who have those ideas and that can take them and put them in factual business plans and say, you know, this is going to work, it's going to make a difference, but more than anything, it's going to promote our mission. We're not looking at things that don't promote our mission and employ people with disabilities.
Yeah, and I think another huge growth strategy is just to continue to roll this out on a national basis, because the other community rehab centers that have seen the growth that they've experienced, they're all like, help us do this. And so it could be phenomenal based on the metrics that they're offering and the way clients are choosing to be with them because of the metrics. So it's amazing.
Yeah, people are saying, why don't you franchise this? Why don't you? Well, that's not really what we want to do. We want to grow it, but we want it to grow us while we're growing it and not become a franchise company. We want to be the same thing we are, which is a mission-based organization.
We'll make this the last question.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. My question is for Susan. So how does finding new clients work for EdgeDweller? Is it the same as other consulting firms? And are you the only firm in this business, or are there competitors as well?
Well, there are lots of competitors in the, I think the question was about how do we get business? And number two was the competitors in the business. There are lots of people, I mean, zillions of people, especially with the economic crisis going on, that evolved and have sort of appeared in the innovation space. Usually they'll have a piece that they really specialize in. As far as we know, in terms of going all the way around to the thinking patterns required to create the ideas, we're the only people that have that kind of end-to-end innovation product, but there are lots of different versions of innovation out there. On the social space, there are many models. The ones that we have seen the most of are the models that teach organizations how to choose. It's sort of like pig number 2, the one that says we're going to do the organization the same way. We're going to carve aside money, and we're going to donate that to a cause. So most of the people that we see in the space are in door number 2, so to speak, and not literally using it to drive it as a core growth strategy. That's what we're seeing.
Okay, great. Yeah, go on.
One comment that Susan, you were supposed to ask me this question, I was supposed to answer it.
Yeah.
So I've got to answer it because I think
it's a good one, but I don't know if we have time for it.
and if you need to go, please.
Yeah, it's a good
feel
question.
free. It won't.
Would you like for me to pose it?
Yes, okay, ask me
Connie.
that question.
You know, in the world of carbon credits, you guys are hearing about carbon credits that are being issued, mitigation bank credits, et cetera, where do opportunities exist for social credits? Okay, is there a way to get tax incentives and credits back for employing, for example, people with disabilities and the social implications of that?
Yes, and thank you for asking that question.
You're quite welcome, Connie.
I think the reason I want to talk about it is because these people,
they're going to
be able to,
you guys will advance
make this happen, and you can advance this idea. I've presented this idea a couple of times to some legislators who say, and that's kind of how far we've gotten. But I do think that the B Corps and the nonprofits and companies that want to really make a difference in the social environment is, you know, if we could get tax credits, if they get tax credits, why not get social credits that can take people and make productive individuals out of them? What could that do for our economy? Take people and put them to work doing something and giving companies incentives to do that instead of just tax credits.
See, the impact, again, I love this metric of you hire someone, you employ someone that hasn't been employed before with disabilities, you reduce public assistance, you increase tax rates, tax-paying rates at the same time. I mean, it's an amazing number in terms of the multiples of what happens to it. So that certainly is worthy of social credits. You guys work on that.
Yes, work on that. Call me.
Thank you.